Hello and welcome to the Amateur Austenite. My name is Frances Duncan. I am an author and the founder of the Jane Austen Society of New Zealand. My co-host is my friend Sian.
Good morning.
And today we're discussing chapter 46 of Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Everything happens in this chapter. It's much longer than the previous ones. Miss Crawford writes, says some vague things, then Fanny finds from the paper that Mrs. Rushworth and Mr. Crawford have run off together. Then Edmund writes, also doesn't tell her what's happened, assumes that magically she knows and that he's coming to pick her up. Then the next morning he turns up and then he leaves with her and Susan.
2 scandals in this little thing.
Oh, yes! We missed out that Julia has run off to marry Mr. Yates.
Which would in itself be a scandal. But the worst scandal is Mrs. Rushworth.
She is so appalled the whole way through this chapter. They're all more affected by it than the possibility of Tom dying.
Tom dying has been a tragedy but not a scandal. The risk of.
So it's less about the effect on them, but the effect it will have on their family and society, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay.
As it becomes more clear as going through the chapter and we hear from Edmund's perspective, you realise that he's going through this grief. There's obviously more to it in terms of his relationship with Miss Crawford, which we haven't heard anything about yet, but it's obviously preying on his mind, but he can't say anything.
One would assume because her brother has done this horrible thing with his sister, now there is no chance for the two of them to get married.
Not necessarily no chance. We've all thought about the impact of Mrs. Rushworth running away with Mr. Crawford and the impact on Julia, hence her desire to elope with Mr. Yates. But actually, the far worse consequences on Miss Crawford. But she doesn't see it. It will also reflect upon her behaviour.
Though it's easier for men to get away with behaving badly than women.
It is easier for men to get away. But there is also that impact upon her as well. And it's interesting to see how she reacts, as we'll find out later. Right in the beginning of the earlier chapter, you have that picture of Fanny sitting and with the sun coming through the window, but not the cheery sun that she'd be used to in the countryside, but the sun that illuminates the worst, sort of lights up all the grimy situation of Portsmouth.
In town, the sun, its power was only a glare, a stifling, sickly glare, serving but to bring forward stains and dirt that might otherwise have slept. Which has a double meaning now I read that. This is before she finds out about the scandals.
All she's had at this moment is Mary's incomprehensible letter, which says absolutely nothing, but talks about dire situations that she shouldn't believe.
Miss Crawford takes care to note that Henry is blameless. But what is he blameless of? Fanny doesn't understand. She assumes something very imprudent had occurred to draw the notice of the world and excite her jealousy, in Miss Crawford's understanding.
She has curiosity, but she has no care about it particularly. And in fact, comments that, well, hopefully now he realises that he doesn't love her.
Give him a knowledge of his own disposition and shame him from persisting any longer in addressing herself, though she had begun to think he really loved her. But then she realises that something big must have happened because her correspondent was not of a sort to regard a slight one.
And in fact, if it was a slight one, she would have been expecting to hear it in a lot more detail because that's how she was, a gossip. She's made things worse now because essentially she's made Fanny, I wouldn't say panic, but curious. If Fanny was concerned about Henry, she surely would have been panicking, not reassured at all.
Her father returns home with the neighbour's newspaper because he cannot afford to get his own and discovers the piece of gossip. And she has a shock of conviction as she read. And she's sitting there listening to her family talking around her. Every moment was quickening her perception of the horrible evil, this sin of the first magnitude. Fanny seemed to herself never to have been shocked before. She's basically having a breakdown in a room with other people and they have no idea what's going on.
Because to them it's like us just watching E and discovering that,
some celebrities had an affair.
It's just a bit of news, but it means nothing because people don't mean nothing, and it's just them behaving badly because that's what celebrities do. And as far as certainly Mr. Price is concerned, this is the evils of the gentry.
Fanny has feelings of sickness, shudderings of horror, and goes from hot fits to fever of cold. She's really having a breakdown right now. She refers to it as a disgrace and thinks this is quite brutal. The greatest blessing to everyone of kindred with Mrs. Rushworth would be instant annihilation.
When you're totally embarrassed, do you not want to hide under a rock? If you got struck by lightning, would it not be the blessing? She's embarrassed for the people that she's looked up to, or feels that she should be looking up to, for whom she has a lot of gratitude. And yet they have done this horrendous thing.
It reminds me of what Mr. Collins said in Pride and Prejudice when Lydia runs away, that her death would have been preferable.
His was not comforting in any shape or form, and it was just his moralising. Whereas for Fanny, she felt this humiliation. She feels it for Edmund and Sir Thomas. She's become very fond of Sir Thomas.
She's supposed to have got a letter from her aunt, but it hasn't arrived, what she thinks is an evil omen.
Yes.
Then she hears the sickening knock, which means that a letter's supposed to come. Fanny's really a little bit melodramatic, isn't she? So Edmund's letter is short and to the point. He never actually tells her what's going on. What if she hadn't seen it in the paper? You know our present wretchedness. That's all he says. But he also adds that Julia has run off with Yates.
It's a double blow.
There is no end of the evil let loose upon us.
Yates came across as a fribble really early on, but he's always shown attention to Julia.
But Sir Thomas would want her daughter to marry a more established gentleman.
And also in a respectable manner.
Yes.
So what they just both show essentially is immaturity. He could have totally ignored her and gone away.
But he has continued his attentions the entire time that he's known her.
Yes. While I wouldn't say he's an admirable character, and he may well be a fribble, but at least seems to have been a constant fribble and support of Julia right from the get-go.
Edmund says that he's going to come and pick her up and invites Susan too. Says that Sir Thomas wishes it. I am sure you will feel such an instance of his kindness at such a moment. He's actually thinking about you and your sister, despite all this going on, and she's going to be witness to it. I imagine he had always intended it and went, I'm not going to not do it now. There is nothing like employment, active, indispensable employment for relieving sorrow. They're running around like mad things, trying to get everything organised for leaving in the morning when he turns up. Fanny tells her family what's going on. She refers to the black communication. The affliction of the Bertrams was little felt in the family, so she must have told them.
There is no personal impact upon them at all.
No.
They don't have any sense of, even though it's her sister, Mrs. Price is not showing any real concern for the impact on her sister.
Even though we don't think very much of the Prices, they don't have a lot of money, but also their house is just a shambles. But Mr. Price was like, this is terrible. I would beat her if she was my daughter. This is not okay to behave this way. So they still have certain morals.
Yes, and in those days, remember as well, what was excusable for the upper class or accepted for the upper class was behaviours that was not acceptable for the middle to lower class. They were more respectable.
Edmund turns up and Fanny's so excited to see him, and he presses her to his heart, refers to her as his sister, and then turns away to recover himself, which means he's crying. It never flat out says it, but he's crying to see her. And then he has gone again, glad to get away, even from Fanny. He can't sit and wait for them. He says, we'll get the carriage back here in half an hour. I'm going to go for a walk while you have breakfast. I can't sit still.
That tension, particularly for a young man of 26, sitting quietly.
How hard to not be able to do something. They've gone and they've looked for her and they can't find her.
Are they looking for Mrs. Rushworth and Henry? Or are they looking for Julia and Mr. Yates?
We have been here 2 days, but there is nothing to be done. They cannot be traced. And then he goes on to say, you've not heard of the last blow, Julia's elopement.
Right, so it is very much focused on. So
Yeah.
where did they go in those few days?
Like Mr. Crawford, he notices that Fanny doesn't look well.
Yes, but
From his ignorance of the daily evils of her father's house, he attributes it all to this and says, how a man who had once loved could desert you. He does see her worth, he's just a bit stupid about it. But then he goes on very selfishly and goes, think of me.
I know. You do want to go,
What about me?
oh dear.
Though it is in his family, his immediate family, it is his potential wife who he's now been distanced from. They have quite a quiet travel to Mansfield because Edmund can't keep up a conversation.
Susan's nervously thinking of the silver cutlery, wondering which one goes first. And of course, Edmund can't open up in front of Susan, not this young girl. He can't be open with her as he would normally be with Fanny.
And Fanny's quiet because she's dreading meeting her aunts and Tom under so dreadful a humiliation. These are the people that, as you were saying before, she looks up to. Fanny again enjoys nature. She's like, oh, look, it's spring/summer. Isn't everything beautiful?
And that's actually quite an interesting vision, as it were. She's been away this winter of discontent, after winter, sort of spring, because it's been the season in London, which is why they've all been off. But for her, it's not a very nice time in Portsmouth, really. Nowhere to walk like she has normally, so you can't enjoy it. And so all of a sudden now she's back in her favourite place. And it's all changed. The plants have come out, the trees are alive, the sheep are bleating, cows are lowing.
So Fanny gets really nervous running up to the house. By one of the suffering party within, they were expected with such impatience as she had never known before. And this is really telling. Lady Bertram comes with no indolent step out of the drawing room to meet them, and falling on her neck says, dear Fanny, now I shall be comfortable.
That is a lovely, lovely image. After almost ridiculing, she's been an object of ridicule, this indolent lady, but the presence of Fanny means so much to her that she has thrown off that image to immediately welcome her niece to the house.
She doesn't wait for her in the drawing room.
No, she's not.
She comes with
and
anyone
she ignores
else.
Edmund.
Yeah.
She's straight there to Fanny.
With anyone else, we would have said that they ran.
Yes.
Basically, this is equivalent to her running because Lady Bertram. And it makes me wonder again why they didn't bring Fanny home earlier when Tom was sick.
Well, of course, you've got to remember Mrs. Norris is there. What role was she playing all this time? You could imagine she'd be undermining the role and saying, oh, no, she needs time to stay with them, get to know her real family and her place in the world, which is down there. We can cope. I can cope. I can look after Tom. That would be Mrs. Norris, wouldn't it? Lady Bertram's not a strong character. She could not fight against Mrs. Norris.
We are running very quickly to the end of the book. There are only 2 more chapters left. So much happened in this chapter.
There was a lot.
But also, all of it happened, most of it happened off page.
Again, it's in lots of letters or newspaper articles, which are very useful devices for telling the story.
Jane Austen doesn't tend to have big things actually happen on the page. Fanny drove from Portsmouth to Mansfield Park. She read some letters. That's all that actually happened. But the way she was feeling and all the new knowledge that came to her, that's really what the chunk of the chapter was about.
No, I just think it's very interesting. I still think she's still the only one that sees clearly because, she's this observer.
She doesn't seem that surprised, really, does she? She does say, I had thought he loved me, but, okay, he's gone back to form.
If she's disappointed, it's only for him being less of a man than she thought he could be. He's thrown away his potential.
And that is our summary of Chapter 46 of Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. My name is Frances Duncan. You can find me at francesduncanwrites.com and on Twitter at Frances_Duncan. Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy reading.